Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guest tonight is Taylor Morden and Katie Gibbons. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty
Thanks
good.
for having us.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your film and how Katie became part of it.
Well, the film is called Bampire. It was written by a friend of mine, Zoe Wassman, and it is kind of a horror take on Bambi. But since most people think that that's played out and we shouldn't be doing horror remakes of Disney movies, it's also a wholly original, awesome story about community college students going into the woods and getting into some trouble, which is the kind of movie I grew up loving. It's a 90s romp, horror, practical effects, gore, and it is partially animated. So we've got hand-drawn 2D animation, just like Roger Rabbit or Cool World or any of those. And Katie is awesome, and I've known her for a long time, and I've always wanted to work with her. And I sent her the script, I think.
Yes.
It's been a long time, and was like, do you want to be in this movie? I think it even had a different name back then, but I'll let Katie tell you what happened next.
Yeah. So Taylor approached me with this project, and it did have a different name. I don't quite remember what it was, but it was like a cool, like artistically done title on the front page. Anyways, after reading the script, I was really excited about the role that Taylor came at me with, which is one of the leads. It's kind of an ensemble piece, really. There's several key characters, and Amy, which is the character I play, is one of those key characters. And I was just really excited at the opportunity to play this kind of woods-dwelling, I don't want to give away too much, but she's kind of this woods-dwelling, nature-loving kind of loner. And that was like me growing up until recently, maybe still a little bit. So I was just really excited about that piece of it. And everything, I mean, the whole script, like, for being a 90s campy horror comedy, more horror than comedy, the script almost has no sense being as good as it is. Like, it is, like, so well-rounded. So I was just really excited about the project and to work with Taylor finally.
So when you got the role, what you explained, how much preparation did you do to become this character in this fun indie horror film?
We did a number of like group activities, like via Zoom, where we kind of like met each other and worked through the script a little bit together, with direction from Taylor and just talking about kind of like the beats of the story and all of that. And then on my own, I did a lot of work. I'm really into playlists. I love to kind of like get a sense for my feeling as this character. Like, if it were me, what would I listen to as this character? So I made a playlist pretty early on. I started working the lines and the scenes with some friends and just like taking it lots of different directions. So it's very exploratory, is what I would say, is like in the beginning.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of that, I'm going to go see Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 tomorrow night, so.
There's a second one?
Yeah.
The second one's coming out, or it's out now.
Oh.
It's coming out tomorrow. You know who's in it, which I'm so excited? They're going to have Tigger. I'm going to see Tigger kick ass.
There you go. I had no idea.
I didn't either. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now Taylor, when you became part of this project, how'd you get together with Zoe when she wrote this film? How'd you guys end up hooking up to make this fun, bloody horror film?
Yeah, well, so there's this sort of small but growing film community here. We live in Eugene, Oregon, which is not a huge city, and it's not a big film hub. Like, people don't make movies here. They used to. They made Animal House here back in the 80s, and both the Prefontaine movies. But when I moved here a few years ago, I got tapped into this local film community, and I met a bunch of people, and Zoe was one of the first people I met. And she was this young writer, excited filmmaker, and she sent me several scripts over the years. And I read them, and most of them she sent me were like, well, that's great, Zoe, but this film would cost $10 million to make, and we don't have $10 million. So I guess good job. I mean, when you write a script, you can write anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the spaceship crashes into the, Taj Mahal, and then the 5,000 people come out waving torches, and you're like, well, that's great, but that costs millions of dollars, and we don't have millions of dollars. So, a year and a half ago, maybe, she sent me this script and was like, what about this one? I think we can make this one here. It takes place mostly in the woods. We live where the woods are, Pacific Northwest. It's got a lot of cast, but we think we can keep it relatively local. And there's no big, crazy set pieces that would cost a fortune to make. And I read it, and I was like, there are a few set pieces that would cost a lot to do. And so we really had to, figure out how we were going to do the animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of animals in the woods, and I don't know how to train a bear or a deer or a mouse to do anything that I say. It's damn near impossible. So we went through some phases where we're like, should it be puppets? Well, who's going to make the puppets? Who's going to puppeteer them on the set, and how do we do that? And eventually we came up with the idea of doing it Roger Rabbit style. All the animals can be cartoons. Cartoons will do anything you say. They'll do even crazier shit. So we could do crazy horror stuff that we never even could have dreamed of with our budget, because it's like, well, a cartoon can do anything. How do you make a cartoon animal fly? You just draw it flying. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So that was really exciting. And then, what drew me to it, reading the script, was it takes place in the 90s. I'm a 90s kid. Part of the movie is shot on an in-world VHS camcorder.
Nice.
Which I spent all of my formative years in the 90s in high school with a VHS camcorder on my shoulder. In fact, if you find me on Facebook, my profile picture is a picture of me in the 90s holding a VHS camcorder. That was very exciting to me because I love that format. I love the 90s. I'm like a retro pop culture person. And we had all those things. It had, now it has cartoons and VHS and blood and guts, and we're committed to doing practical effects very early on. We found a great practical effects. Her name is Trista. She's based in Portland, Oregon, Trista Kelly, and she is awesome. And we're like, I want to measure the blood by the gallon, and I want to do VHS, and I want to do cartoons, and we're going to get this kick-ass cast together, and we're going to make this crazy, what shouldn't be as low of a budget horror movie as it is in the woods in Oregon. And that all of that was just like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. That sounds awesome.
That's pretty cool. Since you're directing it, each director and filmmaker have their unique film style. So when you decided to be part of this, horror film, part practical, part anime, what's your unique take on your style of filmmaking when you direct this film?
That's a good question. This is my first narrative feature, so everything was unique. Everything was the first time I was doing this or the first time I was doing that. I've done a lot of documentaries. I'm known as a documentary filmmaker, but that's another medium where you don't tell anybody what to do. You just point cameras at real life. I think with this one, what I brought to it was just I'm a very DIY. I used to play in punk rock bands. We used to just make stuff with our hands, and just having things be very tactile and very as much as we can just do the real thing and point the cameras, almost document as much as you can make a documentary about people getting slashed up in the woods and blood spraying everywhere. That's how I wanted to do it. And also that's the movies I grew up on, right? Watching the DVD extras of all these old horror movies, there's somebody over in the corner with a pump spraying blood everywhere. I want that. That's what I wanted. And then we had that. And there were moments on set where I was just like, oh my God, we're doing the thing that I love. So
That's pretty cool. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I grew up on the campy 80s horror films, and then plus the 90s were started getting a little bit better, because I used to go to like the mom and pop video stores, and remember back in the day where they have the awesome like art picture on the front of the box, and you think it's going to be a cool movie, and you get all excited, so you put it in the VHS, and you start watching it, and you're like, what the fuck is this? It does not look like the front of the cover of the film. And it just gives you that thing that you're like, Also, Katie, since you're part of this film, since it's going to be part animation, what's your approach on it when you are shooting scenes where you're, imagining that you're looking at the scary, Bampire and the scary animals? So are you going to be in the shots where you imagine you're seeing it, or are they going to have like little props for you to look at that, like you're like staring at like the creatures in the film?
Yeah, so Taylor, you can just make like a sound if I'm like not supposed to say something, okay?
Yes.
Okay. There's both. There's
okay.
So I had a couple of scenes where I'm interacting with like a bug or something, which is a really cool one because it's actually the animation inside the VHS footage.
Oh, sweet.
Correct.
So that was really cool. It was a little easier for me to interact with a bug because it's so small, right? So I could kind of focus on a very specific area instead of like having to imagine a bear and interact with all the parts, like the moving parts of like a bigger being. So it was kind of nice that it was just this bug situation. And then some of the other animation is actually our characters. So as things get really complicated with some of the scenes, our characters have like an animated form. Yes.
Oh,
I haven't seen.
but for that, you're just doing a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's just like run around. And there's really funny behind the scenes footage of these actors running around in circles, just acting stuff out, making the funniest voices. Because we're just doing audio, but of course we were filming sneaky behind the scenes footage. It's great.
It's so great because it's action, right? So we're like supposed to be winded and like fighting and all this stuff. So we're like running around in circles around the boom, like making like and all the BTS of that is just really funny and will make for some great clips.
So, Katie, have you met some of your cast members you're working with, and what's it like to work with them on the set? And did you guys, when you first met, did you guys like hit it off pretty well where you were able to play off of each other in certain scenes?
Yes, absolutely. I would say very much thanks to Taylor, Zoe, and the rest of the production team. They decided to put together like a compilation video of everybody's auditions for their respective roles, and they sent that out to us. And that's not something I've ever thought of before, but it gave me so much confidence in all of the people that I was going to be playing with. I was like, they couldn't have cast this better. Everybody's so perfect for their role. Really grounded. I don't know. It gave me a tremendous amount of confidence in them. And then we met over Zoom the first couple of times and just got to know each other a bit and see how the other people played. And it was, it was just really grounding. It felt like an authentic connection that made for like a really positive on-set experience where we all knew each other, we knew what we were capable of, and it was fun.
Hey, good answer. Since it's going to be, part practical and part animation, who's doing the animation, and how bloody is the animation going to be, when Bampire goes after its victims?
Well, that's the beauty of animation. It can be infinitely bloody. A good friend of mine, Josh Stifter, is doing our animation. He did, if you've seen the Kevin Smith movie Tusk. Yes. The A24 movie. He did all the cartoons in that. And so he's doing our animation, and he's already started. I've seen a couple shots so far, and it's awesome. But yeah, the beauty of animated blood is that it can be like crazier. So as soon as we decided to do animation, we started going into the script and saying like, well, okay, it says this person, is mutilated in this way, but it's a cartoon. It can be anything. Mm-hmm. Let's mutilate them bigger. Let's do more. Let's more blood. Let's more severed body parts, all the stuff. So we're still getting into that with the animation. That stuff hasn't been done yet, which is why we're still raising money on Indiegogo, vampiremovie.com. But it's really exciting, and I'm very I'm happy so far working with Josh and all the animation I've seen, but I'm really excited, looking forward to like some of these big gory moments in the animation, because we did a lot practically as much as we could, with, again, gallons of blood and fake limbs and all the things, which is awesome. But obviously at our budget level, you reach a threshold where you're like, well, we can't really, not this, but we can't like explode a building and have a helicopter fly through the thing and then it cuts off everybody's heads and blood flies everywhere. But if it's a cartoon, you sure can. And I'm excited for that, the meeting of the live action cartoon where you're like, oh, that's cool. And that was so bloody. And then the next scene is just even more crazy than anything you've seen, because I can't think of another animated horror hybrid Roger Rabbit movie. I looked one up and I watched it, and my wife and I were watching this like old 80s horror movie that's supposed to be cartoon, and it has this one animated character in it, and the trailer is like, look at this animated character, it's a horror movie, it's so scary. And in the movie there's one animated scene, and it's the one from the trailer. I'm just like, it came out right after Roger Rabbit. They were trying to do the thing, and they didn't do the thing. And it doesn't do anything cool. There's no blood, there's no guts. It's just a cartoon monster.
Speaking of Bampire, I love that name too, crazy bloody Bambi. So of one of the creatures in the film, I'm going to pray, I don't know if it's going to be is it going to also have an evil thumper bunny?
So, fun fact, while Bambi, the character and the book that it's based on, is in the public domain.
Yes.
Much like Winnie the Pooh. Thumper is not. Thumper was created by Disney years later. So, there are rabbits in our movie, but we are not legally allowed to call them Thumper.
Well, damn, man, that would have been cool, because I like Thumper, because I always had a weird imagination since I was a kid where Thumper was going to go wild and start killing Bambi and his family and and everyone. I wanted to see Thumper get like medieval, just start destroying the forest and
maybe Vampire too.
Oh, that's cool.
In 30 years.
Yeah, in 30 years when it becomes public domain.
Since you said there's going to be a lot of blood in it, I'm going to ask Katie this. I don't know if she can answer this because, I know you got to keep hush-hush in the film. So, Katie, are you going to be, like, covered all over in blood?
There are many characters that are covered all over in blood, and my character is one of them at a certain point.
So, how much...
There's so much blood in this. It's like the whole, I don't know, like third act is very sticky. We'll say that.
Yeah. It doesn't give anything away because you get covered in blood whether you get killed or whether you're just near someone who gets killed or whether you do the killing. It doesn't, like, I got covered in blood. I'm not even in the movie, so that doesn't give anything away.
Trista, the practical effects artist, got the most covered in blood. She was like permanently stained red.
Right, because she always had to be right there.
Yeah. She was great. She was an absolutely amazing practical effects. And she was everything on this set. She was like helping with the kids. She was emotion wrangling. She was blood wrangling. She was everything. And her ability with the practical effects is added so much value to this. I mean, the shots that I've seen, I was like,
It looks real right up until it becomes a cartoon, and then you're like, wait, that's not real.
Yeah.
So, speaking of blood, I bet you had fun, Katie, being covered in blood. It probably was a little bit hard because you guys were out in the woods. You were probably filming like during cold days. You know how you get covered in blood and it sticks and it's really bad when it's real cold. Did you have any scenes where it was like very cold where you felt the roughness of the blood on you?
Yeah, it got especially the night shoots where there was a lot of blood, it was very cold because it's wet, it's sticky, it doesn't really dry for a long time, so you're just permanently wet, cold, and sticky. And we had a lot of those.
Oh, no.
It was very cold. People had blankets, people had towels. What was cool is that we shot at this amazing like large-scale campground facility outside of Eugene. So there were actually like tons of showers available, which made it was like the perfect situation for what we were doing, because there were like 3 outdoor showers. There's like a lake, and then there was like cabins, and then a lodge that also had a shower, and some of them were hot. So it made for kind of the perfect situation when, you know, this person gets covered in blood and amputated, they go there, and this person killed somebody and that person died, and like all of these things, like everybody has to go take showers all at once, and there were plenty of showers, so it was great.
That's pretty good. And also in a great horror film, you got to have that music score or that song. So who's doing the score and the music of this film?
That's a great question. We do have somebody lined up, but it's not all figured out yet. We've had a lot of people reach out to us, but the music is still early. I mean, we're just barely in post-production.
Yeah.
So we got to edit the movie. We got to do all the animation. But music is very much on our minds. I mean, it's a 90s movie, so we'd love to get some 90s music in there to really set the vibe, but that stuff is expensive. It'll be awesome. I'm just going to overpromise. Say the music's going to be awesome. I don't know exactly who's doing it or when or how, but I'm a music guy. I came up playing in bands. It will be awesome.
Now, speaking of the animation, I'm a fan of color scheme in films, you know, like for certain things where you feel the atmosphere or the attitude from the actors or the creature. So in this animation, is there going to be like certain color schemes for like certain scenes where it gets like, you know, really brutal, or what's going through the minds of the characters in the film? Is there going to be like different like color schemes with the animation?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And our writer-producer Zoe is also really big on color theory and just making sure everything is within a color palette. So one of the first things we talked about with this movie was the color palette and the wardrobe and things like that. So it's actually in live action, there are color themes and color palettes that we are going to extend into the animation. Nice. And obviously we can go bolder with color in the animation. But there's, you know, a huge chunk of this movie with the main cast is in like bright yellow rain ponchos, and you know, we got people wearing bright colors, and because a lot of it takes place in the woods, which is a lot of green and a lot of brown. So we tried not to have people wear too much of that unless maybe they live in the woods and that's supposed to be part of their character. It was all thought out from the beginning. But yeah, as we're starting to do the animation, we get to take that to the next level, which is really exciting, and just say like, you know, the whole screen can flash with these colors, or like the background can become abstract and be really colorful. We did a lot of, you know, like we looked at 90s movies for references, which is, you know, if it's nighttime outside, the sky is blue. It's not dark gray. It's not like an A24 subdued, muted gray like every movie is now. It's blue. It's 90s blue. The sky is blue. If it's nighttime, the sky is blue. That's what I learned growing up watching movies. In real life, the sky is not blue. That's not a real thing. But we leaned into it, and we're like, we get to have fun with color. Let's have fun with color. It's the 90s. Remember how colorful the 90s were?
Hey, same with the 80s. The 80s had the color schemes and the color lights in their films as well, too, like 100%. The 90s. And I don't care what anybody says, 80s, 90s horror is where it's at. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some good horror films out there, but I'm sorry, the 80s and 90s is where it was originality, a lot of practical effects. It was fun. Like I said, they used sometimes animatronics, or they would use puppets, or they would ad-lib looking at certain characters. And that's the way a film should be. I'm not a big CGI guy. I'm a straight practical guy. And that's why I love watching indie horror films, because if you notice, the writers and directors mostly go more to the practical effects, which gives you that that 80s and 90s like type of feeling. It feels like you're watching a popcorn flick, like at a drive-in or from a video store. And that's why I love supporting indie horror films.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you're right.
We love that. That's exactly what we need more of you.
Yes. Katie, is this like your first horror film, or have you been in other horror films?
I've done a horror short film. That's like 20 minutes long almost.
Okay.
So definitely much shorter than a full feature in the horror genre. And I want to go back a little bit, if that's okay with you, to the question about Taylor's filming. Is that cool?
Hey, this is all about you. This is not about me. This is your story. You can do whatever you want on this show.
Okay, cool. Something I thought was really cool about how Taylor shot this, and I've seen some clips and like a sizzle that they sent out to the cast and crew to get us stoked about it. It's the whole thing is beautifully shot. Like all of the live action stuff is really aesthetically pleasing. Like it looks great. And the colors look great. The composition of the images look great. And that's like very much thanks to Taylor and all of the experience he has, though he hasn't done a narrative feature before. He has a lot of experience behind the camera and storytelling. And then also
our co-DP, Daniel.
Yeah. I was going to say, and then also Daniel and Thor, like there were some scenes where we ran 3 cameras, and that's going to give, so I don't know how deep into the edit you are, Taylor, but it's going to give so many different options for how to cut this together, and all of the images looked great, and they all worked really well as a team, and then the whole Grip Gaff squad, just everybody was so symbiotic in making the entire thing happen so smoothly, and it was like despite some hiccups, it was a very positive on-set experience. We had like a situation with some killer bees because we had some raw meat on set. And the next day, the Yellow Jackets were like, "This is our favorite place to live, where you're trying to be." Very dangerous. But aside from those, indie, not even indie, just like in general on any project that you work on, there's hiccups. But overall,
there's no big budget that makes the bees go away.
No. Or the weather behave.
Bees are going to be.
Yeah. Bees be bees,
Yeah.
So,
that is one thing that's really advantageous because we ran 2 cameras most of the time because on a low budget thing, what we're lacking is days and time with the actors and time with the locations. So we're running 2 cameras a lot so that we could make the most. I think we shot, 22 days, something like that, which is not a lot for this big of a feature. There's a lot of locations. There's a lot of actors. There's a lot going on. And sometimes we ran 3 cameras, and a lot of that was because we wanted to do so much practical blood and gore and all this, but we couldn't afford a lot of takes. Like a lot of these, it's like we get one shot at this because it took 3 hours to set up these prosthetics, or we only have 9 gallons of blood and it's going to take 3 gallons for a take, so we only get 3 takes. So a lot of that was born out of necessity, but I loved having multiple cameras because we'd be like, oh man, the blood explosion looked great, but I missed the shot. Oh, we had 2 other cameras and they got it. Great. That's awesome.
That's pretty good.
That was great. And then for the actors, it was a huge relief to know that they're capturing it from a bunch of angles, right? So that we can. It gave me so much security in being able to be there with my scene partner or scene partners or whatever was happening in the scene, knowing that they're going to be able to cut between different takes within the one performance instead of having to splice together. If there's just one camera running and then you have to redo the scene 7 times and they want to make, X joke and it doesn't fit together in the 2 takes, it just sucks. So it was amazing to use. It was amazing to use 2 and occasionally 3 cameras. It was really cool as talent.
Speaking of the many cameras you guys are using in this film, what we talked about earlier, it's going to be all bloody. Are we going to get shots where it's getting real bloody, where it like covers the camera lens, where it feels like you're part of the film when the blood's splattering right in front of you? I love that.
I don't know because we haven't edited the movie, but that did happen. In fact, it happened on one of the craziest shots. We were 100% sure that the cameras were far enough away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were zoomed in. We're like 20 feet back or something. Like, this is fine. And then the blood spray was so big that it hit the cameras anyway. And we were like, huh. I guess it feels like you're in it because the blood does hit the lens. And knowing myself as an editor, I'm probably going to use that shot because I love in the old movies when you get blood on the lens and you can't even see what's happening. And there's some where they like wipe it off. They leave that in. We didn't do that, but it's, that's what makes it feel real, right?
Yeah, I think it's cool. And I'm also a big fan of cinematography. I love cinematography in films. I love when a certain camera operator and cinematographer, which both work together, because, you know, there's a difference between a film operator and a cinematographer. I love certain shots when you watch a certain scene where they like zoom in and you feel like you're part of the character with the camera, and like certain scenes where you get that large pan shot, you know, between, you know, the characters in the film where it gets like very intense. I love shots like that too. I'm just a big cinematography buff, so.
Well, then you're gonna love this movie because we got all the shots.
Nice.
All the shots.
Katie, so are you a big horror fan?
This is kind of a tough question because there's like subgenres of the horror category that I like.
Okay.
And it tends to be more in the campy, ridiculous side of horror rather than slashers.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to watch a couple before shooting Bampire because I know we're kind of going for a combination of things.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm like not quite as much against the extreme gore as Emily, Taylor's wife.
Yeah, she didn't like
who's
it.
going to watch Bampire like this, allegedly. Like this. But, you know, I think I love the passion behind the genre, and that is part of what got me excited about trying to embrace it and watch more. And I think being myself kind of a movie nerd, now I like them more than I did when I was much younger, because when I was younger I was like, scary, gross. Yeah. But now, because I appreciate so many more aspects of making a movie, there's a lot of things that I enjoy and appreciate about pretty much anything in the horror genre.
Katie, good question, man. You nailed that right on. I'm impressed. Now, what?
Trying way to say you don't like horror movies. I loved it.
No, that's Taylor saying that. I'm just saying that was a good question. Taylor.
You did great.
I love Bampire. I love it.
You know something? I have a feeling I'm going to love Bampire too, because, you know, since I'm going to be enjoying the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey films, and then you're also going to be getting a Dead Snow White film coming out. One of my filmmaker friends is making, which is going to be pretty cool. And then since you guys like campy, cheesy horror films, I'll tell you one you guys need to check out. It's called Slaughterhouse. Slotherhouse.
Slaughterhouse. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I've seen the trailer for that. I've got a friend who's in that movie.
Yeah.
I still have to watch it.
It is great. I had the filmmakers on the show, and they used animatronic puppet, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looks so lifelike. I'll do one scene, but I'm not going to spoil it because I want you guys to watch it. They did this one pan shot scene were the sorority girls in the sorority house, and it was like storming. You know how you have those shots where the lightning will hit and you'll see the room light up, and then the thunder will do a dark. So you see this sorority girl like sneaking away, and every time when the lightning lights up, you see the sloth slowly fall into her in each shot.
the sloths are slow. That's the joke, right? It's not scary.
Yeah,
You can outrun a sloth.
You got to see it. It's cheesy fun, man. That's the film you got.
I remember seeing that come up, like seeing the trailer for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, man, that's like we're in the same universe, just in having clever names for our animal-based horror movies, right? Slaughterhouse and Bampire. I feel like there's like this kindred spirit thing happening where we're just like, what's a pun you could base a whole movie off of? Like Velocipaster is also in that world where you're just like, that's just a good name. You got to make the movie.
I'll tell you another one that's good. I can't wait to check out. They're doing an indie horror film on it called Crack-Coon, about a raccoon on crack. Again,
Cocaine Bear opened the door for people to just be like, Crack-Coon? Of course you have to make Crack-Coon.
It has to be made. It has to be made.
And it doesn't have to be good. That's the beauty. That's why we're doing this. It's like, it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be.
Yeah, I talked to one of the filmmakers on that film, and they got a raccoon puppet. It looked so sweet, and I was like, man, I'm going to play with that raccoon puppet. That puppet looks so cool.
Now I'm really glad we didn't go with puppets. It sounds like everybody else is going puppets.
No, I think we've got a lot of unique stuff. We also have a lot of iconic wardrobe. There's going to be so many Halloween costumes for people coming out of this. It's going to be insane.
So since I'm a fan of a cool wardrobe in certain films too, Katie, is your character going to have some cool, sweet looking wardrobe?
Yes, I have a number of different things that are going to be pretty iconic. There's a few other characters that have some iconic wardrobe or lack thereof. I think the yellow rain ponchos is kind of fun because everybody is wearing them at one point. But I think every character has one very, very iconic kind of 90s reminiscent piece, and maybe some other stuff too.
Yeah, we're definitely going for iconic. You have to, right? You got to swing for the fences.
Now, I can't wait to see this. I'm definitely going to put something into the Indiegogo. I got to have this in my physical media collection. I support physical media, and it's sad they're trying to get rid of it. I don't mind casual streamer fans watching movies, but I got to have my physical media copy, man. So I hope Bampire, once it's done filming and shown at film festivals, I hope eventually I get a Blu-ray copy.
100%.
You can get a Blu-ray on our Indiegogo. You can get a Blu-ray or a VHS or both or Pogs or stickers
or Pogs.
Pogs?
Those things. Yeah, we've got a whole pile of Pogs that are pretty cool.
I'll definitely get the Blu-ray for sure.
Yeah.
Once I get off with you guys, I'm definitely going to go to your Indiegogo page. I got to have this Blu-ray because I'm trying to picture what Bampire is looking like right now. You know, I'm trying to picture how this crazy Bambi-like vampire is. I'm trying to picture what the eyes look like, the teeth, or how deformed or morbid it is. I'm having so much crazy thoughts in my head about this Bampire.
Right?
We have some different forms of it, right? Like there's like a half form, full form.
Right. Yeah. So there's and it's complicated, and there isn't just one vampire. There's several. It's a new thing, which is great. We got to sort of play with a brand new cryptid, a brand new creature. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to play by the rules of what vampires can do and what werewolves can do or any of that. So it's a whole new thing. And it's exciting because there's forms it takes that will be animated that we haven't even seen yet. So like, use your imagination and then tell us what you want to see, and maybe we'll put it in the movie.
Alrighty, know it. See, so when I get off, I'll message you. I got a great idea. I'm picturing it in my head right now because I'm sick and twisted. So anyway,
perfect. That's what we need.
That's the right vibe.
Another cool fact, though, is that it's actually based off of real animals. There are a number of deer. This was like news to me, I'm kind of an animal nerd. There's like at least 6 different subspecies of fanged deer
Nice.
And then I also learned that there's like some modern deer and like cattle breeds used to have tusks, and they've like evolved away, but they're still currently in existence are fanged deer, and they're terrifying looking. Yeah. And a lot of them are endangered, unfortunately, but definitely look them up because they're scary, cool, creepy, fun, unique, and you'll have like a cool new party fun fact to impress everyone.
Right. You know something? I learned some tonight.
Show people.
Go ahead, Taylor. I was just wowing at Katie talking about fanged deer. So since I live in Ohio, we got woods. Maybe I can try and find me some fanged deer. But go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah. Well, so that's the really exciting thing. Is like, oh, you made up a crazy, vampire deer thing, but no, Zoe based it on a real creature, and like you said, it's endangered. So if for some reason Bampire is a huge hit movie, we could actually do some good in the world and like raise awareness about this endangered species that is also horrifying and a scary fanged vampire deer that actually does exist. They don't exist in North America, so you probably won't find one where you live, but there are multiple species, and the craziest thing that I learned about them is that there are multiple species, and you see a picture and it looks just like a deer, but with big, huge fangs, like it's designed to just go murder. And then you zoom out and you find out like some of them are only 1 foot tall. They're these little mini deer, and there's videos of them, and they like run up and down the walls like they have magic powers. They're wild creatures. You can go on YouTube and just look up musk deer or fanged deer and watch videos of them. They're just crazy.
Well,
so there's some of that in Bampire for sure. Like some of the things that vampires can do is based on what these real animals can do.
Thanks a lot, Katie. After I'm done with the show, I'm going to be watching videos late at night. Shame on you guys. You got my attention and curiosity. Now I definitely got to seek this out. I mean,
you should. It's really cool. You can also look up like the evolution of other types of species, like elk. Elk have ivories that a lot of people harvest, and those used to be tusks the same way, and they would like fight each other. Like the guy ones would fight each other. But some of the species that still exist, the females also have the fangs, so it's not just. Anyways, it's really interesting. You could like dive down a whole rabbit hole with just like all of that kind of information. And it's cool because it was like stumbled upon / already known by Zoe and then turned into this new cryptid for our movie, and it's awesome.
That's pretty sweet. So where can everybody find you guys on social media and your next upcoming projects? So everybody know what's going on, and also about information in an Indiegogo page for Bampire.
Yeah. Well, the best place to go is bampiremovie.com, BAMPIRE movie.com. That'll go straight to our Indiegogo. We are at Bampire Movie on pretty much all the socials. I don't think we have a TikTok. We should have a TikTok. We don't have a TikTok. We've got an Instagram. We got Facebook. And then I'm on those as well. Taylor Morden on Facebook and Pop Motion Pictures on Instagram. And Katie is...
I am the _ Katie Gibbons on Instagram. That is my only social media. I also have a website that everything's linked on there. It's just katiegibbons.com. So I can send you those if you want to like put them somewhere.
Oh yeah,
you're making a movie. Hire her. She's amazing.
And hire him to direct it.
Yeah, you already have a director.
You guys, thank you so much coming out of your busy time and having a blast with me tonight.
Super fun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And everybody, thank you for listening to Horror Pop